Hey there, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with a live video Q&A. So the way this is going to work is over the next 45 minutes to an hour, I'll be hanging out here and answering any questions that you would like to discuss with regards to bodybuilding, fitness, building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges that you may be dealing with when it comes to your workouts or your nutrition program. Feel free to post those questions or topics in the video chat, and I'll do my best to help you out and answer those throughout our video chat today. So go ahead, do that now. I'm just going to get things settled away. And of course, I always like to start with that audio video check. So for those of you who are watching and tuning in live right now, if you can hear me and see me, please let me know in the comment section there in the video chat, just so that I have that confidence going forward that you can actually hear me and see me, and that I'm not just a talking head here talking to thin air. So if you could give me a check, a mic and audio, or audio and video check, I would really appreciate it. So let me just get this settled away here. And of course, as far as the questions are concerned, anything goes. Whatever you'd like to discuss with regards to bodybuilding, fitness, feel free to post those, and I will do my best. Okay, we got a bunch of questions coming through here. Great. Just get my browser windows situated. All right, let's start from the beginning. Stefan's joined us, and he says he's first. And you are indeed. You are the first. Loud and clear. Okay, thanks, guys. Just wanted to make sure before I get into answering the questions. All right, Stefan is asking, he says, is training only with power moves effective for strength and athleticism? Well, I guess what it is that you'd consider power moves, if you mean like squat, bench, deadlift, the power lifts, if you will. I wouldn't say training only those exercises, but they can certainly help. I believe in training with a well-rounded program, trying to incorporate many different styles of training into your routine. I don't like this attitude of just doing, a select few exercises. Now, there's nothing wrong with going through a training cycle where you just focus on a few basic exercises. Like in my own case, I've went through training cycles where I've literally only did squat, bench, and deadlift, and probably like prioritize those lifts for, say, 6 to 8 weeks. But after that phase has gone through, then it's nice to get into training some other body parts that you're maybe neglecting, other exercises that you may be neglecting. So, I mean, you can certainly incorporate power moves into a strength and athletic program, but you want to include other exercises as well, especially the athletic portion. I mean, whatever it is that you are doing as far as sports and athletics is concerned, you need to do some specific training for the technical side of that. I mean, if it's if you're a soccer player, if you're a football player, if you are a basketball player or a baseball player, whatever it is your chosen sport is, then obviously you need to practice the technical side of that in order to have the strength that you gain in the gym carry over into your performance on the field or on the court. So, I mean, you need a well-rounded program. Try not to have that minimalism point of view when it comes to your training, but you can certainly incorporate power lifts into your workouts. We have Denise is joining us. She's waving her hand high. She says, when is the best time to take a protein shake? Thank you. Denise, the best time to take a protein shake is whenever you need a serving of protein. I made a blog post about this. Oh, it's a long time ago now. But if you literally go to my blog and search for when's the best time to take a protein shake or have a protein shake, you will find that post. But when it comes to protein, you need to stop thinking of it as a supplement and just think of it as another source of high protein food, because that's basically all it is. I mean, you could have a chicken breast, you could have a protein shake. You could have some lean beef, you could have a protein shake. You could have some fish, or you could have a protein shake. Think of it just like that. It's another source of high protein food. The best thing about protein is it's convenient because there's no cooking required and you can whip it up very fast. So, I mean, if you're in a hurry, you don't have time for a proper meal, you can mix up a protein shake and have like a meal replacement that way. It's a great to have for meals or snacks when you're not getting a good serving of protein otherwise. Like, for example, a lot of people with their breakfast, typically don't have a high protein breakfast unless you're eating things like, you know, steak and eggs or something that's obviously high in protein. But a protein shake in the morning with your breakfast would be great. Like if you're having a bowl of oatmeal, you could have a protein shake along with it, or even mix the protein powder in with the oatmeal and have a high protein oatmeal. It's a great way to get a high protein meal. Post-workout, another great time to have a protein shake. But pretty much any time that you need a high protein meal, you could substitute in a protein shake if that is convenient. Now, I would still recommend trying to get a good majority of your protein through real natural foods. Again, meat, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy, etc. Because when it comes to natural foods, there's a lot more than just the actual protein. You're getting other nutrients and minerals and all these, you know, the nutritional benefit of natural food goes far beyond what you'll get through supplements alone. So treat it just like that. It's an additional source of high protein food. But as far as the time to have it, you really can fit it in where you see fit. In my own case, I'll just kind of give you a sample because I know that's kind of a vague answer. I like to have high protein oatmeal. So anytime I'm making protein or oatmeal, I'll mix in a scoop of protein powder with the oatmeal. I like to have high protein blender smoothies, you know, especially, you know, summer's coming along. It's nice to sometimes have a cold meal. So I'll mix up like egg whites, protein powder, frozen berries, blend that all up into the blender. And it's a really nice, cool treat. I mean, it's a high protein, it's healthy, but it has that frozen yogurt, like ice cream type consistency to it. So it's almost like a frozen treat, even though it's very high in protein and high in nutrients. So that's something that I like to make a lot, especially in the summertime. And, you know, you can basically have a protein shake anytime. So hopefully that helps to answer your question. And again, if you want, you can read my blog post, which goes into more detail. And that also links to other posts that are related to other protein related questions that you may have as well. Tom Islav says 3 times 10 for pull-ups at 220 pounds body weight. Is that good? If you can do 3 sets of 10 of pull-ups, yeah, that is pretty good, because quite honestly, the average person can't do any pull-ups. And of course, the bigger you are, the harder it is. If you look at people who are really good at body weight exercises, they tend to be fairly light in body weight. It's kind of like that strength to power ratio. I mean, more often than not, a smaller person is going to be stronger on a pound for pound basis, especially when it comes to body weight exercises. So yeah, if you can rep out sets of 10 at 220, that's very respectable. There's a lot of people out there who can't do that. Nima is joining us. Nima is a regular to the video chats. Says, hi Lee, always make sure to tune in every Saturday morning at around 1 a.m. from India for your show. Wow, 1 a.m. in the morning. Well, thanks for tuning in, man. Really appreciate your support. Ken is joining us. Says, hi, Lee. Are you a fan of farmers' carries? I am. I usually refer to them as farmers' walk, but it's the same thing. Farmers' carries, farmers' walk. And I have a video on YouTube demonstrating it and talking about the benefits of farmers' walk, as well as a couple different variations that you can use. With the farmer's walk, it's a good grip exercise because you have to hold on to the heavy dumbbells while you're walking, but it's also a good functional overall body exercise because it literally works your entire body, right from your ankles, right on up through your legs, through your core, through your traps, your back. Everything has to come into play in order to stabilize and do a farmer's walk. So what I very often do when I am performing a farmer's walk is I'll start off with just my raw grip alone and work in a progressively heavier fashion. So start off with lighter dumbbells and then build up each set to heavier dumbbells. When I get to the point where I can't hold on to the dumbbells and my grip is a limiting factor, I'll very often even put on lifting straps and hold on to extra heavy dumbbells and just do it for the total body exercise benefit, you know, in order to be able to walk and just have the strain on the body supporting heavy dumbbells. And that is a great exercise, again, for overall functional strength and athleticism. So yeah, I am a big fan of farmer's walk. If you are going to do them, I would recommend saving them for the end of your workout, or probably even do them in a separate workout on their own. Like sometimes you might want to go to the gym for like an accessory workout where you're probably going to do some ab workout, probably do some forearm training, maybe some calf work, or things that you kind of like want to do like an add-on workout to basically supplement all your other exercises and other workouts. So if you want to kind of like have a separate add-on workout, the farmer's walk would be a great one to throw in for that. We have Coach Aesthetics joining us, and he says, how to take creatine for best results. The simple answer is to take creatine and you will get the best results. You don't need to make it complicated. If you take creatine on a daily basis, you will reap the results. The main thing with creatine is to take it consistently so that you have it in your system and your body can basically top up its natural creatine stores and you'll reap the results. I mean, I know some people are going to debate saying, well, should I take it pre-workout? Should I take it post-workout? Should I divide it up and take a little bit before and a little bit after? Should I take it in the morning, noon, or night? Honestly, it doesn't matter. If you simply take it on a daily basis, you'll saturate your system with creatine and you'll get the results that you need. So, I mean, that's my best advice I can give you about it. And as far as how to go about it, it really depends on the type of creatine you're using, because, you know, you can get creatine mixes that are like a flavored mix that you would probably put in with water and drink it. Sometimes they might have like creatine and amino acids and everything else blended up. Sometimes like a pre-workout cocktail will have creatine in it as well. But if you're just taking plain old creatine, you can either mix it with a glass of water, or what I like to do, I will literally take the scoop of creatine and just dump the powder in my mouth and chase it down with a mouthful of water. And I find that that is the easiest way to take it. And, you know, it works. You don't have to make it any more complicated than that. I know some people like to mix it in with a protein shake or something like that. But I find that if I do mix creatine in with the protein shake, it can ruin the taste of the protein shake because creatine has that gritty texture to it. So unless you actually enjoy a gritty protein shake, you know, you can take it the way I do. It's just literally the scoop of powder, dump it in my mouth, and then chase it down with a mouthful of water, just like that. Just like obviously I don't have the creatine, but simple as that. I mean, once you get used to it, you can take a lot of your powdered supplements that way. Especially the powdered supplements that are small dosage. I mean, I wouldn't recommend trying to chug a protein powder scoop with like 20 or 30 grams of powder, but something where you're only taking like 5 grams of powder at a time, you can do that little, just dump it in your mouth and chase it down with water. And once you get used to it, it's a great way to take your powder supplements. I take my greens powder that way. I take my creatine that way. I take my amino acid supplements that way. Because again, rather than mixing it all up into a drink, and a lot of times it's probably not the most pleasant tasting drink. It's like, I just like to chase it down with water and kind of like get it in me as simple as I can. So that's the way I take it. Eric is joining us, Eric J, and he says, is gaining a pound a week too much? Well, I guess that really depends on you and your goals. But as far as a bulking program, a pound a week would actually be a very ideal goal. Now, if you're consistently adding a pound a week and doing so over the long term, and you find that all of a sudden, I'm getting a bit of a belly out of this, then maybe you want to scale back. Well, either scale back on your calorie intake, possibly bump up your cardio to balance it out. But you basically just want to keep track of your progress and adjust based on how your body responds. But as far as the actual weight, 1 pound per week of a weight gain is actually a good goal to strive for when bulking. Now, anytime you're bulking or cutting, you're not going to be consistently gaining or losing the same amount each week. It's going to fluctuate. And more often than not, when you start a program, that's when you're going to see the fastest changes in terms of weight on the scale. The longer you've been bulking or the longer you've been cutting, the slower the change is going to be, meaning the slower the rate of weekly weight gain or weight loss, depending on what it is you're going for. So if you're in the initial phases and gaining a pound a week, then you're right on track. So I wouldn't even worry about it. Excuse me. Constantine has joined us, says greetings. What else we got? Eric, just as we can. Okay. Trinidex. I think that's Trini DXD, Trinidex. Hey, would you recommend a 1,500 calorie diet with a 5-day split and cardio 3 times a week for 45 minutes to lose weight? I possibly would, depending on the situation. As far as the specific numbers of calories in and calories out, it really depends on the individual. I mean, just saying 1,500 calories. I mean, is this for a man? Is this for a woman? Is this for a teenager? Is this for a 70-year-old grandpa? Who's it for? I mean, 1,500 calories may be just right for one person. It may be too much or too little for another. So again, I can't really just give you a blanket statement and says, yes, that's the right number of calories to consume without knowing more about who this particular diet is for. As far as the workout program is concerned, 5 days of weight training, 3 days of cardio, that would be a great place to start. As far as, I mean, you know, obviously with 5 days, you can certainly get a good, complete overall workout done. And as far as cardio, 3 days per week at 30 to 45 minutes a session is a great starting point, but you can work that up. When it comes to fat loss, I would recommend looking to increase your exercise before you look into decreasing your calories. So once you get a fundamental program in place, you know, you've got a sound diet in place, you've got a sound workout routine in place and cardio, and hopefully that would initially produce some results for you. So you'll be following that, but eventually you're going to hit a plateau. It's inevitable. Whatever program you follow, eventually you're going to hit a plateau. When you do hit a plateau, I would be more keen on increasing your exercise and rather than cutting back in your calories. So in the case of this, if you hit a plateau at that particular program, I would work on increasing the cardio. If you're doing 3 times a week, bump it up to 4 times a week, you know, and you hit a plateau, then bump it up to 5 times. Very often when I'm training for fat loss, I will work up to daily cardio. And I actually like to do daily cardio anyway, just for the overall health and fitness benefits. And in fact, I made a YouTube video the other day talking about the mental benefits of getting outside and doing cardio, particularly walking outdoors. So I usually try to do something like that on a daily basis, regardless if I'm bulking or cutting, just for the overall health benefits. But that's what I would recommend. Start off with a sound nutrition program. Work on burning, as Tom Venuto, if he's an old school internet marketing fitness guy, but he had the Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle program, and I think it's still available. I'm pretty sure it is. But I like that analogy. You want to burn the fat and feed the muscle. So with your nutrition, don't think of starving the fat. Think of burning the fat through exercise and feeding the muscle through quality nutrition. And only make cuts in your nutrition, like me going lower in calories, when you hit a plateau from, you know, you're already doing daily cardio and everything else, and now you need to, you know, take it to another level. Then you can cut back on your nutrition. But try and diet on as high of a calorie intake as you can in order to maintain your lean muscle and to also keep your metabolic rate and your metabolic hormones healthy. Because if you go into that starvation mode and drastically cutting back your calories, you can unconsciously slow down your metabolism and actually slow down your overall fat loss progress. All right, let's move on. Try to get some more questions answered here. XXK4, anyway, this particular username, XXK4. Have you ever tried Arnold's Blueprint weightlifting routine? What was your favorite mass building plan? No, I haven't tried Arnold's Blueprint myself, so I can't really comment on that. My favorite mass building plan, I would have to say the 20 rep squat program. One of my favorites, if not the favorite, because it's one of those that I look back on and I made really good progress with it. Another ones that I made really good progress with, like I mentioned before, I went through a phase, especially when I was younger, where I literally just did squats, benches, and deadlifts. That was the only 3 exercises I did, and I would do them 3 times a week, and I would rotate them. So workout 1, say like on Monday, I would start with squats, bench, deadlift. And then on Wednesday, I would rotate the order. So I'd start with bench and then do deadlift and squats. And then on Friday, start with deadlifts and then do bench and squats. Anyway, but bottom line, I would start with a different exercise each time. So I had the opportunity to hit that exercise when my body was fresh and full of energy. And you'll find that that has a huge impact on your strength. I mean, if you constantly do an exercise either at the beginning or at the end of your workout, you'll notice a difference. So by cycling through them and starting off each workout with where you could hit each one when you're fresh and full of energy, then you'll really maximize your strength. But that was another one that I really liked, just basic 3 power lifts done 3 times a week. What are some other ones? Positions of flexion is a good overall bodybuilding workout. I like that one just due to its overall complete program, where you're hitting all your major muscle groups through the full range of motion, mid-range, fully stretched, peak contraction. That's another one. I mean, there's a lot of great ones, but if I were to say one that kind of stood out in my mind, that where I can look back and say I made really good gains with this program, it was the 20 rep squat program. That was one that I really can look back on and say, you know, damn, that was a productive training cycle. I did it for 8 weeks, and it was probably the most productive 8 weeks that I've ever had in terms of training. Okay, Resperju is tuning in. He says, hello. CB Mitchell saying loud and clear, or loud and clear. Good, guys, thanks. N Import is saying, Lee, how do we deal with a shoulder injury and exercises? Shoulder injuries can be tough because it really depends on the type of shoulder injury. But the best thing that you can do is try and work around it, you know, and work around your injury, work within your pain threshold. And sometimes that may mean literally stopping upper body training for a while. It may mean doing totally different exercises. A lot of times the root cause of shoulder injuries is too much pressing work, not enough pulling work. When it comes to the actual shoulder training itself, very often too much work for the front and side delts, not enough for the rear delts. So a good thing that you can focus on is to try and increase the volume of your back training, both in rows and pull downs and like rear delt flies, things like that. And the more pulling and rowing that you do, generally the better it'll be for your shoulders. So while you are dealing with that shoulder injury, again, depending on where the injury is, you may still be able to do some back training. And if you can, that would be a good way to kind of like rehab and be a preventative measure for preventing shoulder injuries in the future, because more often than not, the root cause of a shoulder injury is an imbalance. Again, you're doing too much work for probably the front delts versus the rear delts. So those are some tips that you can use. I have a video. It's an older video, but it's pretty complete, that covers some shoulder injury rehab exercises. And if you just do a search for Lee Hayward rotator cuff, it'll pop up in YouTube, and you can watch it. And it's, you know, I go into a lot of detail about shoulder injuries and some different exercises that you can incorporate in your workouts to help rehab and recover those injuries. All right, Nima's got a question saying, Lee, is it true that hamstring curls and good mornings work better as muscle building exercises for the hamstring than leg curls seated/lying? What's the bread and butter for the hamstring? All right, hamstring curls and good mornings. Those are really good exercises. Another one that you could throw in there too is deadlifts, like stiff leg deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts. Even squats. I know a lot of people don't think of the squat as a hamstring exercise, but it is. When you do squats, you're working your hamstrings, especially if you're doing full squats. If you're only doing partial squats, then the quads tend to be the prime movers. But once you do a full range of motion squat, you really engage the hamstrings. So the hamstrings come into play there. As far as a bread and butter hamstring exercise, I mean, maybe all the exercises you mentioned have their place. So, I mean, again, if you want the best, then you would include them all at some point or another. I'm not saying that you have to do them all in every single leg workout, but over the course of time, I would include all those exercises, and I personally do. You know, hamstring curls and seated and lying leg curls. I mean, they are really good hamstring isolation exercises. But I think if you're going to look for a bread and butter mass building hamstring exercise, I would focus on things like lunges, deadlifts, good mornings. Those are probably the bread and butter. Another one that a lot of people don't consider a hamstring exercise, but is really good, is leg presses. And especially when you do the leg press with your feet high and wide on the foot plate. So this will vary depending on the type of leg press you got. But try and go as high and wide as you can comfortably and do the leg presses. The particular one that we have at Platinum Gym where I train at, it's an Atlantis leg press. And the foot plate isn't overly big. I mean, it's big enough, but it's not massive by no means. I've seen some leg presses with just this big, massive foot plate. But the one that we have, the Atlantis one, I literally go right up to the top corners of the foot plate, you know, and plant my feet. And I find that when I do that, it's a really good hamstring exercise. It places less strain on the knees and places more of the workload on the hips and the hamstrings. So not only is it a good hamstring builder, but it's a great way to train around a knee injury. If you do happen to have a knee injury, is to do your leg presses high and wide on the foot plate. And like I said, allow you to get some good leg stimulation and also, you know, put some mass in the hamstrings as well. All right, let's move on. We have Deep Thoughts is joining us. And he says, "What's up, Lee?" Well, the video chat's up right now. I'm doing good. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate everyone for tuning in and posting comments. I do appreciate your support and encouragement. XXK4 has another question saying, "What's the best weightlifting split or training program for advanced lifters with 8+ years while cutting?" I'm going to tell you, and this would apply for not only advanced lifters, but it would apply for an intermediate lifter as well. But the best training program is the one you're not following. Think of that. The best training program is the one you're not following. And the reason why I say that is because whenever you follow a program, you pick one. It could be a bodybuilding program. It could be a strength training program. It could be even a CrossFit style program. It could be whatever. You know, you pick a program. Follow that program consistently and work it. What you'll find is happen is your body's going to go through a phase of adapting to that program. It's going to grow in response to it. And then eventually you're going to plateau. And once you hit a plateau, then you need to change things up in order to start that whole adapt, grow, plateau process again. And this is pretty much universal, regardless of what program you follow. They're all going to go through this to some degree. Now, how you go about changing them, I mean, you could either just change up the exercises, you could change up the set and rep pattern, or if you want, you could change up the entire program itself. And my personal favorite is to just change up the entire program. I find that it's mentally refreshing and it's also very good physically. So to kind of give you an example, within the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle, or Inner Circle Coaching Club, we have a Workout of the Month program. And the way this is, it's every single month we have a different training program, and each one is complementary to the previous. So for 1 month, we may have a high volume bodybuilding style program. Next month, we may have a powerlifting strength style program. The following month, we may have some sort of conditioning type program. And we'll cycle through these different styles of training. And each time you start a new type of training, then you'll notice that your body will respond really well. It's once you've gone through the adapt, grow, plateau, and then you start a totally different style of training again, it just spurs on new muscle growth because you're getting that unique muscle stimulation. So, for example, if you're always doing heavy, low rep sets, and then all of a sudden you do some lighter, high rep sets and doing high volume pumping work, you're going to experience some gains because it's totally different muscle stimulation. Vice versa, if you're always doing high rep pumping work, if you switch to doing some low rep, high intensity, heavy work, you're going to get some gains because it's totally unique muscle stimulation. So again, the best program is the one you're not following. But when I want to mention something else here as well. Don't be haphazard about it, because sometimes when people hear this, they say, well, I'm going to change up my program all the time. I'm going to do a different workout every time I go to the gym. And that's not the best way to go about it either, because you're neglecting the adapt, grow, and plateau. You have to let your body go through the cycle. So it has to adapt to the program. It's going to take a few weeks to adapt to a program. Then you got another few weeks of good, solid growth. And then it might be another, couple weeks or so before you start to plateau. So when I suggest this, I would recommend a minimum of 6 weeks with a given program, and even longer if you're still making gains with it. So the way it usually works is the more advanced you become in your training, the faster your body is going to go through this adapt, grow, and plateau phase when you do change up your workouts. And the reason it's going to happen faster is because you're at a higher level, you're more in tune with your body. You are a better technician when you're doing your exercises. So a lot of the initial newbie learning an exercise and making gains because you're doing a new exercise, a lot of that doesn't apply to an advanced lifter. So you're going to adapt and grow and plateau faster the more advanced you become. So a more advanced lifter will have to change their programs more frequently than someone who's just starting off. I mean, a lot of times if a newbie is starting a program, they can follow that for 12 weeks or more and still make gains. When you're in an intermediate, might want to follow it for around 8 weeks or so. An advanced person might only get 6 weeks before they need to change it up, or even less in some cases. But hopefully that helps to clarify that question and shed some light on it. And if you do want to join us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Circle, just head on over to totalfitnessbodybuilding.com and you can sign up to be a member. And in addition to the workout of the month, there's a lot of stuff there. I literally post all my best training programs, my best ebooks. I'm in there every day on the members forum, chatting with the members and following along with their workouts, offering coaching and advice along the way. So it's a really nice, interactive and supportive community. So if you're interested in getting some more help and assistance with your workouts, consider joining us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle. Okie dokie, let's see. Resperju says, question, any warm-up tips for arms workout? Yep, warm-up tips. First off, I would recommend before you start weight training to do some sort of cardiovascular warm-up as a general total body warm-up, preferably something that would engage your arms as well, such as the rowing machine or an elliptical with the moving handles, something that's going to actually get some blood flow and circulation throughout your upper body in addition to your lower body. After that, you can get into some specific mobility exercises, like just simple things like arm circles, some rotator cuff rotations, things like that to just help to limber up your muscles, tendons, and ligaments of the upper body. And then when you actually get into your specific exercises, in this case, an arms workout, start off really light and build your way up set by set. So a general rule of thumb when it comes to a warm-up is start off with about 50% of your top working weight. So for example, if you're going to curl 30-pound dumbbells, do a warm-up set with 15s, then probably do another one with 20s, another one with 25s, and then build your way up to the 30s. Don't just jump to your heavy weight. And that's pretty universal for all exercises. Actually, the bigger the exercise, the more warm-up sets you're going to need. So, I mean, you're going to need more warm-ups for a 300-pound deadlift than you are for a 30-pound dumbbell curl. So, it's all relative. But that's what I would recommend. For all your exercises, just make sure to start off light, do several progressively heavier warm-ups. Not only is that going to help to prevent injury, but it's going to get your body acclimated to the exercise so that when you do get up to your heavier working sets, you're going to be more in tune with the movement. Your muscles are already going to be pre-pumped up from the warm-ups, and you'll actually get more muscle activation from it. Okay, let's see. Eric's got another question here saying, do you think bands help bench press form? How specifically do you mean by that? Now, because there's different ways to go about using bands. I mean, the common way, and this was popular, made popular through the West Side barbell style of training, is they would attach mini bands to the barbell and either have them go under the bench or to the floor, and would use it as extra resistance for the bench press, the squat, and exercises like that. And the idea of the bands is it's accommodating resistance, because when the band is in the bottom, it's not as stretched, so there's less resistance. As you press it up, the band gets stretched and it becomes more resistance. So it accommodates your natural strength curve. If that's what you mean, it's not necessarily going to help your form, but it can help with your strength and work through your body's natural strength curve. So I'm thinking that's what you probably mean when you're talking about using bands with the bench press. I used to do it quite a bit back in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. I was in a bit of a powerlifting kick. I even competed in a powerlifting meet back in 2004. But for several years in that range, throughout the mid 2000s, I was really focused on powerlifting. I actually took a break from bodybuilding, but bodybuilding training as well as bodybuilding competition, and just focused on powerlifting. And I did use the jump stretch bands with my squats and bench presses and things like that. And it definitely does help, but you know, it's just another tool. It's not required. I mean, you can still make great gains without using bands or chains or any of these accessories. I mean, just the raw barbell weight still works, but if you want to kind of change it up and you know, add some more variety and more advanced training strategies, then incorporating bands can definitely be a good avenue to go when you're at that level that it would actually be applicable. I mean, I wouldn't recommend a beginner or even an intermediate for that matter to use them. It's more of an advanced strategy. Okay, we've got another question here. What's a good indicator of muscle loss while cutting? I heard you'll lose muscle, or sorry, I heard you'll lose strength while on a cut. So how do you tell? Well, it's kind of inevitable. If like when you follow a fat loss cutting diet and you lose body weight in addition to body fat, I mean, you're losing weight, you're eating less, then you're not going to feel as strong as when you're eating a lot and your body is heavier. I mean, strength and body weight do correlate, right? Generally speaking, the bigger you are, the stronger you're going to be within reason. I mean, obviously, if you're just excess body fat, you know, that's not the same as lean muscular body weight. But when you lose weight, you'll very often lose strength, especially in your big compound lifts, you know, the bench press, the squat, the deadlift, the overhead press, rows, big meat and potatoes exercises like that. That's where you usually see the biggest drops in strength. Sometimes your body weight exercises and your accessory moves may actually improve in strength, because when it comes to body weight exercises, the less body weight you have, the more efficient you're going to be. So you may actually be able to get more reps in that. And sometimes when you lose weight, your conditioning improves, you know, your cardiovascular muscular endurance conditioning. So you may actually be able to get more repetitions in some of your assistant exercises. So it's not always universal across the board, but you'll see the big drops with the big heavy lifts. As far as an indicator of losing too much muscle, if you try and starve the weight off, you know, if you go to extremes right off the bat, like following a low carb diet, you're like just drastically cut your calories and you just start doing oodles of cardio off the bat and basically trying to go overkill, take that overkill approach, which a lot of people do, then you're increasing your risk of muscle loss. What I would recommend is take it at a more manageable pace. And like I mentioned in one of the previous questions, try and diet on as high of a calorie intake as you can while still moving yourself forward in terms of fat loss. So let's just say that your maintenance calories is, you know, 2,500. I'm just plucking a number from air, but let's just say it's 2,500. That's what you need to maintain your body weight. Well, start off with around 2,000 calories and work that. And of course, you can bump up your calorie expenditure through extra cardio and things like that. But don't take the crazy approach and say, well, I'm going to slash it down to, you know, 1,500 or 1,000 calories a day right off the bat and have this big, massive drop, because that's overkill. You know, try and keep your calories as high as you can while still moving yourself in the right direction towards fat loss. And by doing that, it's going to help to keep your metabolic hormones higher. It's going to help to maintain your lean muscle, and it's going to help to maintain your strength. Another strategy that you can incorporate is calorie cycling, where you strategically go through phases of high and low calories. And this is good because when you go through those high calorie phases, it's going to help to refill your muscle glycogen, help to give you a more of a, you know, insulin response in your body, especially if you increase your carbohydrates. And it can actually be an anabolic growth spurt within your fat loss cutting diet. So a simple way that you could do this is, say, like follow a low calorie diet 5 days a week, say Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends, bump up your calories, you know, consume even a caloric surplus over the weekends. And by doing that, it's going to help to reset your metabolic rate, help to refill your muscle glycogen, rebuild any muscle that you may have lost during that week of low carb or low calorie dieting. And it's a great way to offset any muscle loss. Now, I mean, it's inevitable if you lose a significant amount of weight that some of it's probably going to be lean mass. But if you take these precautions that I mentioned, you're going to definitely minimize it and minimize the muscle loss and maximize your fat loss in the process. So hopefully that helps. I mean, as far as, you know, the indicators of losing too much muscle, I mean, if you'll basically see it and feel it. I mean, if you really feel flat and depleted and the weight is just dropping, you know, a good guideline as far as weight, lose 2 pounds per week is a good general guideline once you're into a fat loss program. If you're losing more than that and week after week after week, consistently losing a lot of weight, then that's a sign you're probably losing too much muscle in the process. And how it usually goes is when you start a fat loss cutting, you're going to lose a fair chunk of weight right up front. And the thing is, it's not all body fat. A lot of it's just water and intestinal bloat that you're losing. So initially, you're probably going to lose, you know, maybe 3 to 4 pounds a week for the first couple of weeks. Then it's going to gradually start to dip down, maybe then 2 to 3 pounds a week for the next couple of weeks. And then you're going to get into maybe, you know, 2 pounds a week. And then eventually it's going to get to around 1 pound a week. And, you know, once you're in that 1 to 2 pound a week range, that's when you're really into fat burning mode. But if you continue to drop weight at an alarming rate, like you've been dieting for several months and you're dropping, you know, 3+ pounds a week on a regular basis, unless you're really overweight, you know, and got a lot of weight to lose, that's a sign that you could be possibly losing too much muscle in the process. And plus your strength and energy would be in the toilet as well. Yeah. Generally, as you get yourself settled into a fat loss cutting diet, your strength should stabilize. You know, you shouldn't continue to lose strength continuously. It should stabilize, and even halfway through the cutting program, like after you've been doing it for a month or two, you might even start to make gains again. You know, you can do that if you structure your program properly and incorporate, you know, high calorie refeeds within your program and things like that. All right. I mean, I know there's so much. See, when I get talking about stuff like this, it's not just like a, you know, a little yes or no answer. I mean, there's so many other variables. And once you start explaining one thing, then that opens up a whole nother topic that we could get into. So if you would like some help with this, I mean, this is what I really work on when I'm doing like customized programs, customized diet programs, fat loss programs, or whatever. So if you want to, you know, work with me and we really like go deep, I'm talking like, you know, get a 30+ page customized meal plan specific to you. If you want to do something like that, then just shoot me an email or head on over to my website, leehayward.com, and you can get more information about it. Wallix11 says, I don't know if you heard that or not. My little boy is running back and forth the hallway out there, and he's having a lot of fun. Wallix11 says, opinions in carb cycling and high-intensity cardio, how and why to use it. Carb cycling, I kind of mentioned it in our previous question. The carb cycling would be used as an advanced fat loss strategy to maintain lean muscle while cutting and to help increase your metabolic rate while cutting. So it's not necessary to do right off the bat, but if you're more advanced with your fat loss and you find that your metabolic rate is slowing down or you tend to be losing too much lean muscle, then you can definitely incorporate carb cycling as a strategy to combat that. That's how and why you would use it, or that's why you would use it. How you would use it, again, there's a lot of different strategies, but a simple one, low calories during the weekdays, high calorie during the weekends. I mean, that's a simple, that's usually the most basic carb cycle strategy that I recommend for a lot of people because it's very simple and it's very easy to implement. High intensity cardio, how and why would you use that? High intensity cardio is just that. It's literally cardio done at a very high intensity. I'm cautious when it comes to high intensity cardio. I'm a fan of it, but I like to use it sparingly. And I usually listen to my body in terms of when to use it. And I recommend my coaching students to do this as well. If you're doing high intensity weight training, you can't just then back that up with a lot of high intensity cardio because you have a limited amount of recovery. I mean, we all have different work capacity, so it'll vary from person to person, but bottom line, you don't have unlimited recovery. You can't go balls to the wall, 2 hours in the gym lifting weights, and then go balls to the wall doing high intensity cardio and do that over and over and over again and expect to recover. I mean, eventually you're going to start to overtrain if you do that. So that's why I like to incorporate more low intensity cardio. I very often would have the high intensity weight training and low intensity cardio. That is a great fat loss combo for most people. Now, if you find that you've been following that for a while and the low intensity cardio isn't enough and you feel that you can handle more, then we can gradually sneak in some high intensity cardio sessions instead. But I would recommend keeping it simple, just weight training and primarily low intensity cardio. And then if you need to, then we can gradually start upping the high intensity cardio to, as a more advanced fat loss strategy. But try not to go overkill too much too soon. Because again, that doing too much too soon, it usually ends up having negative consequences. Just do enough to move yourself in the right direction and leave some room to grow, leave some room to progress with your program. I mean, if you start off busting your ass with high intensity cardio right off the bat, then where are you going to go once you plateau with that? I mean, again, you have limited time to train, you have limited recovery capabilities. So you want to have your program built in such a fashion that you have room to progress with it as you move along with it. I mean, if you start off doing everything you physically can right at the start, then there's no room to grow from there. I have a sip of water, and then we will move on to another question. CB Mitchell is joining us and says, if you are just trying to maintain your size, do you still require the same amount of protein as if you were trying to put on size? No, you wouldn't. What I would recommend for someone maintaining their size, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass per day. So break out the body fat calculator and get an estimate of your body fat percentage. I mean, that could be with a body fat caliper or something like that. It doesn't have to be a DEXA scan or a bod pod or anything like that. I mean, you can just do a simple body fat test and get a rough estimate of your lean body mass and your body fat mass, and then consume 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass per day. And that will be enough to maintain your size. All right, next question. This one's from JNabs102. Is cardio a bad thing? I strength train about 3 days a week, but I do have a lot of weight to lose, so I incorporate cardio 3 days a week as well. I keep hearing it's a time waster. No, it's not a time waster. Yeah. When I hear stuff like that, it just irks me because first off, there's a lot of people out there trying to capitalize in the fitness industry and make money off something. So they'll probably come out with a fitness program that is anti-cardio because they know a lot of people hate cardio. So they're thinking, well, if I make a program that is anti-cardio and saying you don't need to do it or cardio is bad, then that's going to appeal to some people. And plus it stands out. It's different. It's controversial and it gets attention. So you're going to get some people out there saying, oh, cardio is bad, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is, most, if not all, top-level bodybuilders and physique athletes and figure models and fitness models and everybody else does cardio to some degree. I mean, some do a lot more, some do less, but virtually everybody does it to some degree. So no, it's not bad. It's not a time waster. And if you got a lot of weight to lose, then you need to do some cardio. The more cardio you do, the more weight you're going to lose. I mean, it works. So, don't get caught up in all the controversial bull crap that's out there. I mean, the thing you have to realize too, when it comes to all these different fitness strategies and nutrition strategies, you're going to have some people on one end recommending, a certain approach, and then you're going to have somebody who recommends a completely opposite approach, and then you're going to have a lot of people in the middle who recommend like a general, well-rounded approach. It's kind of like, the 80-20 rule. Like you can look at it on like a bell curve graph. Some people are going to respond to one extreme. Some people are going to respond to another extreme. But most of us, like the 80% of us, are going to respond to somewhere in the middle. So while there is, an extreme out there who probably doesn't do cardio and doesn't need to do it, and then there's another extreme who need to do a hell of a lot of cardio, most of us are going to be somewhere in the middle. And that applies. You can look at everything that way. You can look at your nutrition. Some people need very high carbs. Some people function well on very low carbs, but most of us are going to be somewhere in the middle and function better on a moderate carb intake, usually like a moderate protein, moderate carb, moderate fat. I mean, that's the way I like to structure my macros. I don't always count them out accurately, but I try to consume like 1/3 protein, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 fat. And when I do that, I feel well. I feel energized. I feel well balanced. I feel satisfied and healthy. If I start cutting it out, like going low carb or going low fat or anything like that, and getting things off balance, that's when I usually feel weird. But if I keep a nice, well balanced, well-rounded diet, I feel and function well. And the same when with your exercise. Think of, most people are going to respond to a well-rounded program that includes weight training, that includes cardio. Don't get caught up in because Joe Blow on YouTube or Joe Blow who's got a fitness program says cardio is a waste of time. The fact of the matter is, most people, even professional bodybuilders and athletes, are doing cardio. All right, let's see what else we got. Rub504 says, I've been squatting low bar, recently switched to high bar. I don't use a pad, but the curling on the bar is making my skin rough and very sore. Is this normal when squatting high bar? It's I wouldn't say it's normal, but yeah, I mean, it can certainly happen. You got a couple options there. Either wear like a thick sweatshirt when you go to the gym, like a hoodie or something like that, or at least a thick sweatshirt that's going to give you a bit of padding on the back of your neck. You could try wrapping a towel around the bar if you like. I personally don't like putting anything on the bar myself. Not that I'm against it. I mean, if somebody does like to wrap the bar with a towel or a pad and they find it works for them, and then more power to you. But I find that when you put something on the bar, it has a higher risk of rolling. And if you don't want to have a weighted barbell rolling down your back while you're mid squat. But what I would recommend, either switching the barbell, like if you're training at a commercial gym and you have multiple bars available, try and see if there's another bar that doesn't have as rough of that knurling grip in the middle. And I do that myself. I mean, the gym that I train at has a lot of different bars, which is awesome. But I will use different bars depending on what exercise I'm doing. If I'm doing a bench press, I usually like one with a rough grip. If I'm doing deadlifts, I try to get a bar with grip, but I want smooth in the middle. So when I'm dragging it up over my shins, I'm not scraping the skin off my shin. So some bars are totally smooth in the middle. But that's not good for squats, because if you don't have any grip at all, then it can slide down your back. So I want one with a moderate grip that's going to sit well on the back of my neck and not slide down my back, but I don't want one that's really sharp that's going to dig in. So if you have access to different barbells, experiment with them. Make a conscious decision of what barbell you're going to squat, and just don't take whatever one happens to be sitting in the squat rack when you walk over there. So that's one strategy. But if you don't have an option for different barbells, then wear a thick sweatshirt when you squat. Again, something like a hoodie or just a thick sweatshirt, and that should work to give you some extra padding so the bar's not scraping the back of your neck or digging into your back of your neck as much. Tazeen N says, did you hear about the drama recently on YouTube Fitness? No, I didn't. I didn't hear about the drama, and quite honestly, I try to stay out of all the YouTube fitness drama bull crap. That's not what I'm about. I know a lot of channels out there, they thrive on it, like they're all constantly like bitching and complaining about other channels, like, oh, Joe Blow said this and Joe Blow said that, and then they get their little pissing matches and arguing and bickering back and forth between channels. I couldn't be bothered. I really couldn't. I mean, sometimes it comes up in my YouTube feed and you kind of like, it's there and you kind of have to purposely avoid it. But I try not to get caught up in it because it's crap. I mean, you're not going to see that from me. I'm not going to be one of these people bitching and complaining about other channels. Even though from a YouTube point of view, it can actually help to generate views. It's just, I don't want to have my channel go that way. I try and just keep it legitimate, try and keep quality content, the best that I can do anyway, in terms of actual training and nutrition and quality videos, not getting into just these drama bickering videos that a lot of people do. So you're not going to see that from me. And no, I haven't heard of the recent drama on YouTube. Okay, next one is Wallix11. 22% body fat. Goal is to get down to 10% body fat. Should I keep 1 gram per pound? 1 gram, I'm assuming you mean 1 gram of protein per pound, and have a 250 calorie surplus with aerobic training, or should I start with a caloric deficit? What should my macro ratio be? Well, if your goal is to lose fat, you want to be in a caloric deficit. You don't want to be in a surplus. As far as protein, that 1 gram a pound is a good benchmark. Excuse me, depending on how much body fat you have, you might even want to just do like 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass per day. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, nitpicky, really. I mean, just focus on a well-rounded nutrition program. And I'm going to give you one that you can probably start with, and it'll move like most people in the right direction. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, 1 gram of carbs per pound of body weight, 0.5 gram of fat per pound of body weight. If you eat that along with doing a solid weight training workout and regular cardio, that's going to move like 90% of the people who follow that in the right direction. Now, eventually you're probably going to plateau with that program and need to get into more advanced strategies to continue your progress, but that'll get the ball rolling and get you moving in the right direction. And it's very simple to follow, and it's very well balanced. I mean, a gram of protein, gram of carbs per pound of body weight, and 0.5 gram of fat per pound of body weight. Again, that's very close to that one third protein, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 fat ratio that I mentioned before. The reason why it's different is because fat has twice the caloric density of protein and carbs, for those of you who don't know that already. But that's why I like that ratio. You know, that 1/3 protein, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 fat, and have a slight caloric deficit. That'll move you in the right direction. I mean, you don't need to make it any more complicated than that to start with. I mean, start with the basics, make some progress, and only make it more complicated or more advanced as you need to. I mean, if you can make progress with the basics, then why do you want to, you know, make it any more complicated than it needs to be? If you only need to make it more advanced if you actually hit a plateau. But if you're not plateaued yet, or you're not consistent with the basics, then forget advanced strategies. You know, master the basics first, and that'll take you a lot further than most people realize. I mean, a lot of people out there don't need to get into these advanced, you know, diet and training strategies. They just need to be consistent with the basics. I mean, that's the biggest challenge for most people. Luke is joining us, and he says, I have shoulder pain when benching. What could it be? It pops. Form is on point. Could it be the rotator cuff? It quite possibly could be the rotator cuff. It could be just your body type for whatever reason. Not, you know, it doesn't like the bench press. You could try different bench press variations, such as the incline bench press or the decline bench. Those are sometimes easier on the shoulders than a flat bench. You could try varying your grip width. Generally speaking, the closer you bring your hands, the less strain it's going to place on the shoulders and more on the chest and triceps. You could also try dumbbell bench. I like dumbbell bench myself because you have more freedom of movement with your hand positions. And in fact, in my most recent workout video, I just posted it the other day, that covers dumbbell bench, and I go into detail explaining it and stuff, and the benefits of it. But when you do dumbbell bench presses, you have a lot more freedom of movement with your hand position, so you can actually place your hands at a slight angle, take some of the rotation out of the shoulder joint, and places more of the emphasis on the chest and triceps. And for most people, it's more comfortable. So if you're having pain with benching, then I would recommend, you know, doing another exercise variation instead. I mean, you don't have to bench press. If it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Okay, what else? Scroll down. Jeffrey's asking, is anyone getting any sound? By Jesus, I hope you are. I hate to be talking here for the past however long it's been, an hour, and nobody's gotten any sound yet. I'm assuming people are getting sound. I would feel like an idiot if I would. Well, I've got a bunch of people watching live, and there's no way you would be continuing to watch live if there was no sound, unless you just like a talking head. All right. Anyway, I'm hoping you got sound there, Jeffrey. If not, it's probably on your end. Okay, Okay, where was I? I lost my place. And just give me a second, guys. Shoot, where was that? Jeffrey asked if he's getting sound. Okay, there he is. Chase Etter, or Chas Etter. Lee, I'm just a poor New Brunswick herring choker. Can I be as cool as a Newfoundlander if I move there? No, you can never be as cool as a Newfoundlander by just moving here. You got to be born and bred Newfoundland to be as cool as Newfoundlander. So there. Can't have no imposters. You got to be homegrown to be as cool as a Newfoundlander. Daniel's joining us. He says, Lee, I recently had a shoulder injury. It hurts when I do shoulder presses or even bench presses. How can I fix this? Any shortcuts for recovery? That's very similar to the one I just mentioned, but the bench press. And a lot of the same things would apply. If a shoulder press hurts, then look for another shoulder press variation. Again, you can look into a shoulder press machine, look into dumbbells, or even just if all pressing exercises hurt, then you don't need to do shoulder presses. I mean, you can still train your shoulders with isolation moves like side lateral raises, front raises, rear delt work. You know, you can just do some isolation for the individual heads of the deltoid and skip the presses altogether. I mean, you can still make great gains that way. As far as the injury shortcuts for recovery, watch my video on rotator cuff injuries. So just do a YouTube search for Lee Hayward rotator cuff, and you'll find that video. That's a pretty in-depth video that covers a lot of different rehab and exercises that you can do to not only help to heal the injury, but to prevent future injury as well. Next question, Lee, whey protein versus vegan protein. I would rather whey protein myself. I mean, obviously, if you are a vegan, then you probably want to go for a vegan protein, but it depends. I mean, there's a lot of vegan proteins out there. There's like hemp protein, there's soy protein or vegetable protein. I'm not a big fan of them personally. Like hemp protein, if you've ever drank that, that's like dirt. I'm serious. I mean, that's so gritty, and it's because it's so high in fiber. Like there's almost as much fiber as there is protein in that stuff. So it's like it mixes up and it tastes just like you're drinking a glass of dirt with water. So I'm not a fan of hemp protein. But yeah, I mean, unless you have some reason like you're allergic to whey or dairy or whatever, I mean, I would use a whey protein as my protein of choice. If you can't digest whey for any reason, then yeah, you want to look into different types of protein powders. Don't necessarily have to be vegan. I mean, you can get beef protein, you can get egg protein. There's different types of protein. How many calories can you burn in 30 minutes? This one's from Ashish Kumar. That really depends on how big you are and how hard you're exercising and everything else. I mean, it's not like a one-size-fits-all answer. I mean, if you run sprints for 30 minutes, you're going to burn more calories than if you walk and scuff your feet for 30 minutes. I mean, and if you're a 250-pound bodybuilder, you're going to burn more calories than a 120-pound, woman. So that, again, it really depends on what exercises you're doing and how big you are, how much lean mass you have on your body, how many calories you burn. Okay, another question. Stefan is, can you build strength with weighted body weight exercises? Yes, you can build strength with weighted body weight exercises or just body weight exercises. I mean, look at gymnasts. Gymnasts are doing body weight exercises, with all their different gymnastics moves, and their strength is phenomenal. If you look at an experienced gymnast, excuse me, how's that? Tickling my throat. I think we're good. All right. But yeah, body weight exercises are phenomenal. And again, I'm going to use the gymnastics example. You look at an experienced gymnast and their strength to weight ratio is probably greater than a lot of weightlifters and powerlifters even. I mean, it's a phenomenal way to build functional strength. if I had my time back, I think if I would have gotten involved with gymnastics when I was younger, and because of that, I think it's a phenomenal, underrated form of exercise. And I actually have my son started in gymnastics. He's 19 months old, and we were going to gymnastics. Now, at this stage of the game, it's not much of a structured gymnastics program. It's basically just going to the gymnastics gym and playing around on the mats and all that stuff. But you know, they've got some little things. They're like the little baby balance beam and stuff like that. And they've got, you know, the mats he can climb up on and try and bounce and balance himself on the trampoline. They've got this like little tiny mini slanted rock climbing wall there. So, and you know, he'll do all these kind of things and basically just building his strength and coordination. And of course, this great social and interaction time with other kids. But I want to start him off young. I mean, he's 19 months old. We started him off, you know, a few weeks ago. I think when he was 18 months old, we started him. So at 1.5 years old, he's started gymnastics. And if I had my time back, I would have loved if I could have done the same thing. I mean, just think of the foundation that you're going to lay by starting that young. I mean, even if he doesn't want to, you know, be a competitive gymnast or anything like that, but just the skill set that will install as he gets older. You know, if he did that even as a recreational workout in addition to other stuff, I mean, it would be phenomenal. But yeah, getting back to your question, you can build phenomenal strength with body weight exercises. Okay. Renshi says, recommendations for shoulder impingement stretches for supinatus and these are big words. I can't even pronounce them. What I would recommend, again, my video on rotator cuff. And even though I call it a rotator cuff video, there's a lot more exercises than just rotator cuff exercises. I titled it that way because a lot of people who have rotator cuff problems would benefit from this. But do a search for Lee Hayward rotator cuff. And that's the best video that I have about just overall shoulder exercises for preventing shoulder injury and for rehabbing shoulder problems. Okay. Okay, there's a lot of questions here where people are just replying to one another, which is totally cool. I do appreciate it when you, you know, people chat amongst each other and share your own personal feedback. Coach Aesthetics says, do you need high glycemic carbs to absorb creatine better? No, you don't. You can still absorb creatine if you don't have high glycemic carbs. Now, I mean, high glycemic carbs are going to help absorption of a lot of stuff, but it also, because they're high glycemic carbs, it can also cause fat gain as well. But you don't need that in order to absorb creatine or other nutrients. You can still absorb them and reap the benefits without the high glycemic carbs. And if your goal is either lean gains or fat loss, I would definitely recommend keeping those high glycemic carbs to a minimum. The only time that would be appropriate would be like a post-workout type of scenario. But I personally don't use high glycemic carbs with my creatine, and like I say, I still reap the benefits from it. And I can feel the difference. I mean, even though I'm you know, I can feel when I'm taking creatine versus when I'm not taking it. You know, I do have that extra fullness, that bit of extra strength when I'm taking it regularly. And then if I don't take it for a while, for whatever reason, maybe like if I'm traveling, or, you know, I've run out of creatine and I just haven't bothered to get any for a couple weeks or something like that, I can notice the difference. You know, I can tell when I'm taking it consistently versus when I'm not. And I don't use, you know, high glycemic carbs with it or anything like that. You know, I know back in the day when creatine first came out, they all said, well, you have to drink it with grape juice because grape juice is high in sugar and it's going to spike your insulin and it's going to blah, blah, blah. I mean, yes, I mean, that is true. It is going to spike your insulin, but that doesn't mean that that's required in order to for your body to digest the creatine and to utilize it. You can still utilize it just by itself. You can mix it with water and still get the same benefits. Gareth has a question saying, what's your opinion regarding maintaining a high level of total daily energy expenditure, TDEE, for weight loss? I find if I keep my daily activity high, I get a big impact in terms of weight loss, meaning I can keep cardio low. Okay, let me read that again. Oh, okay. So just general. Again, I'm reading and trying to decipher your question here, but I'm assuming you mean just maintaining a high level of just general daily activity for weight loss, and not necessarily doing cardio. Uh, that works. I mean, any type of activity will work, and I'll give you some real world examples. People who work physically active jobs. Um, if I remember a fellow bodybuilding competitor who I started competing with back in the day, and he used to get shredded for competition. I mean, like he was one of the first guys that I ever seen with striated glutes. And I mean, I know talking about a man's glutes, but if you're in the bodybuilding circle, like that's kind of like the pinnacle of conditioning. If you're getting striations across your ass, I mean, there's not much body fat left anywhere else. I mean, you are like, an anatomy chart by that stage. But this particular guy was the first fellow I ever seen with striated glutes. And I was like, holy crap, how did you get so lean? And I was, picking his brain for the diet and the training and everything else. And he didn't even do cardio, right? I mean, he just dieted and weight trained, but he worked a physically demanding job. He worked in a warehouse, and he was constantly, moving boxes and lifting and carrying. And so all day long, he was physically active in addition to going to the gym. So if you have a job like that, even though you're not doing cardio, you're physically moving and burning a lot of calories throughout the day. So in a situation like that, he didn't need to do cardio for fat loss because he had such a high calorie expenditure just from his job. And anybody who works a physically demanding job, I mean, it doesn't have to be true physical labor, but if you're like even in a store stocking shelves, you're walking back and forth a lot, you're doing, you're physically on your feet, you're going to burn a heck of a lot more calories versus an office worker who's sitting behind a computer all day long. So yeah, if you can maintain just a high general level of activity, then that will be really good for weight loss and fat loss, even if you're not doing a lot of actual structured cardio workouts. I mean, the only time you really need to prioritize those structured cardio workouts is for people who work a sedentary job and they're spending most of the day just sitting on their butt. For those people, it's critical to get off your ass and get out and physically move in order to get your overall daily activity level higher. Excuse me, get a drink. All right, how are we doing for time there? We are okay. I'm going to clue it up. I know I've gone a wee bit over an hour.